Hey everyone, welcome to Sequence of Instructions. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm on jspin.com. I have my HTML and output tabs open, and I've again removed the boilerplate that JSpin starts you off with and replaced it with some really simple HTML we're going to look at to dive into a characteristic of HTML called the display property. You'll see I have a header tag, a paragraph tag, a strong tag, an emphasis tag. We're aware of what these do. We learned them, I think, in the first video. Header makes it big and bold, gives it some space. Paragraph, again, some space. Strong makes it bold. Emphasis makes it italicized. Okay, blah, blah, blah. We've done this. So what's new? What are we learning here? Well, if you look at this, one thing may jump out to you, and that is that even though the content of each one of these elements is a pretty short amount of text, header and paragraph, they both get their own line. But strong and emphasis, for some reason, are not getting their own line. They're appearing on the same line. They're appearing what's called in the HTML world inline. And so as far as the display property goes that we're going to be learning today, there are two types, block and inline. This is an example of an inline display, and these two are examples of block displays. So what does that mean, block, inline? Where do these words come from? So every element is going to be either block or inline. And block is going to mean it is blocking the full width of whatever container it's in and reserving it for itself. So even though here the content doesn't fill the page, this h1 tag, because it is by default display block, is going to still reserve the complete width. It's going to block it all out. This is how I remember it for myself. It's going to create this big block and say, you know, this is all mine. Whether or not I'm using it, I'm reserving the space here. Paragraph is going to do the same thing. It's going to say, yeah, I know I'm only a little bit of text, but I'm a block element. My display property is block, and so I'm going to block off all this extra space in case I decide I need it. Okay, strong and emphasis, they are inline. They display inline with text, basically. It's intended to be used as like text, and so it only reserves space for its content, the width of its content. And now I don't want to learn, we're not going to dive into CSS just yet. I don't want you to get hung up on the syntax, but I've written some CSS to help us visualize this. I'll uncomment it really quick. Don't get hung up on it. I'm going to show it to you again, but again, do not get hung up on the syntax. Basically all I'm saying is h1 elements should have a red background, p tag should have a green background, strong tag should have a yellow background, and m tag should have a blue background. That's all this is doing, but don't get hung up on it. Here's what happens. This lets us visualize what the element considers part of itself. Okay, so this h1, again, the content is small. I can only highlight this much. It's a small portion of the screen, but it's reserved for itself the entire width, marked here in red. Okay, same with the paragraph tag. The content is small, but it's reserved the entire width. These are both block elements. They make this full block. They claim all of this space for themselves. Strong and emphasis, strong is yellow, emphasis is blue. They only consider the amount of space their content takes up as part of them. They are inline. Right? That's why we can use them, we can make a portion of text bold without breaking it onto its own line. Okay, if we were to say, I want this to be bold, and we wanted to make this bold, if it wasn't an inline element, right, it would break onto its own line and it would look very weird. So it's important to have this distinction between block elements and inline elements, right? Okay, that's the primary purpose of this video. If you understood this much so far, you're good. I'm going to add a little, I'm going to take it one step further for those who are interested. You may be wondering, well, what if I want my header to be inline? What if I have some other content I want it to appear next to? How can I do that? Well, this is a bit of a segue into CSS, but to answer the question, you can change its display property in CSS. Okay, so if I said, all right, rather than just having a red background here, I want the h1 to also be inline. You'll see here it is now only reserving the amount of space it needs for its content alone. It's not blocking. It's not taking the full width. Okay, it's still not appearing in line, but that's because paragraph is blocking. So you have this inline saying, all right, I only need this much space. And the paragraph says, well, I need the full width. I always do. So it's going to roll to a new line, claim the full width, and then these last two inlines are going to follow in where they can. But if we now made this paragraph tag inline, you'll see everything is now inline. The header's inline, the P's inline, they're all inline. And here they appear. Header 1 being big, the paragraph tag being a normal paragraph content size, strong and emphasis, all appearing in one line. And if I took off the coloring, you might not even notice that these were different elements. This might just be a paragraph with some other weird styling. And so that goes to show you how HTML and CSS combined give you a lot of control. Now, if you're itching to learn CSS, I have some good news for you. We're going to be getting into it in the next video. The very next video coming out is going to be our big intro to CSS. But I thought this was a good time to explore inline versus block, because even without CSS, knowing these two types exist will give you a lot more control over the web pages you're building. Hope that made sense. If not, feel free to leave questions, comments in the comment section. Excuse me. And get ready for next video when we learn CSS. It's going to be very exciting. Till then, take care.